What's great about this concept is that you could have one character like Jane, for example, and then another character, another woman in another AA meeting or at the same AA meeting, and then they have their story. So you can do a lot with that.
Hey, hello, Kyle. Thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to have you here
Thanks
to
for having
talk
me.
to us about Jane, your short that was selected for the Los Angeles International Short Film Festival that is coming up soon in a couple of days, and Jane is going to be there. So let's start like from the beginning. What was like the inspiration for the script for Jane?
Sure. Yeah, I'm super excited to be at the festival. And it kind of hit me, I gotta say, like all really good ideas, it didn't develop over time. It just struck me. I wanted to write a story sort of from a woman's perspective for a long time. It's just something I thought as a challenge as a writer and a filmmaker to do. I just hadn't had the right project. So I'm also in 12-step programs, but so these are kind of stories about people that I know. These are my women are my friends. And because I have a lot of close friends that are men and women in 12-step programs that are women. So I thought what an interesting way of portraying that on screen, and using people that I know, but also using my own stories. So it's sort of something that came out all of a sudden, but it was brewing for some time.
Yeah, and to find like the perfect actress, Savannah, I
Hmm.
think she's great. And
She's phenomenal.
yeah, how hard it was to find her, and how and why you pick her to be the protagonist.
Yeah, that's a perfect question because when I wrote the short, I wrote it in a way I was like, if I can't find the right actress to portray this character, then I might as well not even do it. So from the beginning, I was so worried about the casting the right person. And it's a benefit in LA that there's so many talented actors that came in to read this role, and a lot of them got that sort of her moment where she breaks down and she goes to the meeting, sort of her Oscar moment, if you will. So many of them just nailed it out of the park. But I was really adamant about the character. The character and the performance had to match. So I first started by like, okay, let's do this scene. I want to make sure you can nail this scene in the audition. Um, and a lot of them could do it. Actually, you see how when women come in to read for roles or actors come in for read for roles, how they get to their emotional breaking point. Um, and some of it's inorganic, some of it's organic, but Jane, Savannah came in to read, and it was almost like I was a therapist and she was my patient, because she sort of started to get into her role and get into that moment where she's breaking down, and I felt like she was gone, like the person in the room was gone. She was lost in this emotion, and I was like, tell me how that feels. Like I almost had to say like what a therapist would say, and say, explain to me what is going on. And she reacted as if she was like literally a patient in a therapist office. And I was, it's almost like you go like this, when
Yeah,
there's no separation between the performance and the person. They're really there. I was like, okay,
that's the girl.
that's her. But I think like all big casting decisions, I think a lot of people like to say that this is the person when they walked in the door. I still wasn't convinced. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that that was the character, and the character of Jane is those people that I know. And I live in LA, and I feel like the people in LA are different. That it's a unique city than a lot of other places. And that's one of the reasons why the story was compelling for me, is because when you think of an alcoholic hitting their bottom, you don't necessarily think of like a young, kind of hip, attractive young woman, right? Or at least I don't think a lot of people do. But I wanted that character to be that kind of the gal that hangs out with the guys, that can be one of the guys, but still is attractive as a woman, has some sex appeal, but not too much. So that was the character that I went for. And because she had that character and had the performance, she beat out a lot of the other actors that did just as well in that getting that performance, reaching
Yeah.
that point where you're really breaking down. So the casting was a major big deal for me, and I built it all around. Once I found her, then I was able to move forward with the movie.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I agree with you. She needs to be perfect because she's the name of the short.
Hmm.
She's the person who's gonna hold the story throughout.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Even though it's a short movie, but she's the one that holds the whole story. And I think she did a really, really good job. What
so
was
brave. Yeah, she was so brave in that performance.
Yes. How many days did you have to like from writing the script to this process, casting process, filming, editing? From how many days or years? I don't know, months.
Oh, I think from writing it to I started casting very early on because like we were talking about, I was really worried about finding the right actor. Um, it took me, I don't know, 5 months of casting, and then 2 months of prep, and then a week to shoot. I actually wrote much more of the story. There was all kinds of vignettes that I had shot with the different actors in the movie, and when I got into the editing room, I cut a lot of them out and just brought this just Jane story out. So it was a discovery in the editing room, um, that I wasn't planning on, but I'd rather, in a short, right, you have a certain amount of time to hold the audience. So I wanted to make sure it was sort of condensed and really powerful, because what I saw was, Jane was such a powerful story that I felt the other vignettes would sort of take away. So I shot actually 5 days
Wow,
really for just this short scene, but I had cut a lot of it out and used certain parts of it and just got the best 9 minutes, 9 minutes that I could.
that's
So
that's really cool. That's really
yeah.
cool. And what was like, what you can say that it was your biggest challenge?
Other than the casting, I would say probably shooting the scene in the AA meeting with all the extras there, because you had a lot of sort of moving parts. But that was like the big day. Not necessarily shooting it, but I wanted to, a lot of those extras had never been in 12 set meetings before. So what we did before we shot is I got them together in another room, all the extras and the cast, and I sort of had a mock AA meeting right there. And I just started sharing and I started talking, and then, as if we were really doing it, just to prep them, to get them to understand, like, to get into the mode. Because I don't, you don't want extras just kind of sitting there not knowing what's happening. You want them to be engaged, right? And feel like, it's a really authentic moment. Um, I got to say, there was a moment where, when what I love about filmmaking and when you shoot is that the things that happen in the moment that you don't expect, right? You can rehearse all you want, but once you get into the moment, magic happens. So when Savannah came in to do her sort of moment where she breaks down at the when she shares in the meeting, she was having a tough time getting the performance, because I feel like as an actor, she saw the room full of extras. She saw all the crew. She even knew that some of the people were in the room that she had beat for the role, if that makes any sense. So
Okay.
she was intimidated by the moment, right? As I think everybody should be. So she got frustrated and ran out of the room with all the cameras on, the lights on, everybody. And I went to go and to grab her to see what was going on, if she was okay. She was sobbing in my arms outside of the set, crying and crying, and just she was trying to get it out, try to get the performance out, and she was having trouble, and she was sobbing and sobbing. And there's that moment as a director where the person who's like, oh, I really feel for this person, she's having an emotional sort of breakdown, but when the director hat comes on, I'm like, oh, this is a perfect time to bring her back into the room. And so she's sobbing in my arms, and I'm like, okay, should I bring her in? I bring her? No, I have to. She's right. She's ready. So I literally like pulled her into the set, and I didn't even say action. I said, turn the camera on, get her in her chair, and then it happened. Right. Like that moment was authentic because of how she was feeling, the environment, the space, and the actor was ready for her role. And we literally just turned the camera on, and the performance was just came out. It was so raw, it was so brave, because it was such a true moment. If I
Yeah.
had waited 5 minutes, it would have been different, you know what I mean? So that I think was the most challenging, but the most like exciting part, right? Like when you get it, you don't have to do another take. And also when she was done with the take, she cried in my arms for another 5 minutes
Oh my
after
God.
the take was over. That's how much she brought to it. And that's, I mean, can you imagine as a director, you're as a writer, you're just like, oh my God, just the being brave and bringing it out is more that you can ask for. So anyways, but that was, I love that anecdote because, there's other people on the crew who were, I'd never seen anyone do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, um,
incredible. That
yeah, 110%, right? She gave 110%.
yeah, incredible. And do you think like do a feature film with this short? Because
Yeah.
usually some of the movies that we see it nowadays, they become a long version of it. Do you think you can do that? You would like to do that?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the idea in a sense is that what's great about this concept is that you could have one character like Jane, for example, and then another character, another, woman in another AA meeting or at the same AA meeting, and then they have their story. So you can do a lot with that to do it into a larger format. But I actually thought that a good concept for a feature would be the sponsor sponsee relationship. So Jane, this is the beginning of the feature where she goes to her first meeting after breaking down in AA, and she meets a sponsor, and then they have their relationship. It's almost like a buddy movie. So it's like the sponsor and sponsee, they're trying to stay sober together, and where their stories intertwine. So it instead of a program movie or a recovery movie, it's about these two women,
Yeah,
come from different walks of life, trying to stay sober. So that's the idea, to take it to a larger format. And I think this story lends itself to that.
yeah.
So
And you mentioned in the beginning that you're very excited to be in this festival. How
yes.
excited are you? And I know that the short's gonna be showing on July 22nd.
Hmm.
And how excited is that for you?
I'm super excited. I mean, LA is my hometown, so family and friends and cast and crew, and it's always exciting to screen your movie to an audience. That's I think my favorite part about filmmaking is the audience's reaction. I made a before this I made a short. It was a horror comedy, and it was about Alexa killing a guy. And there was a part where he gets his fingers severed, and when you watch people watch it, they react to what you're showing on the screen. And to me, that's what I live for as a filmmaker. So I'm super excited to cast it, hope to screen it. Hopefully there'll be like a full house, and to get some of the reactions from people. I've shown it to some family and friends and some of my colleagues, and in some of those scenes where she's drinking, you see a reaction from them. They're like, they kind of cover their mouth a little bit, like, wow, this is pretty rough, like. So that's, I'm looking forward to watching people squeam, I guess.
Yes. Oh yeah. When I don't want to spoil, but when she's in the beginning, when she's like sucking the sand, I was like, oh my God, don't do that. I was like, yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's cool about a short is that you you can get a lot more creative, I feel, than with a long form, because you don't have a lot of time, so you can kind of play with the narrative a lot more. You're not tied to, oh well, I have to hit by this point the inciting incident, the first act. So that's why I thought it's cool. Like after that first moment, you're like, she obviously has a problem, so I don't need to explain it. You see her right in a meeting. So yeah, hopefully it's not too much of a spoiler, but yeah, it's gritty, and I wanted it to be gritty. I didn't want it to be like, oh, we have a problem with drinking. It's like, no, this is, people go through a lot. People get hit in the mouth, and and they come through in the end. I feel like this is sort of an inspirational story, even though I don't hold the audience's hand at the end. I don't show a lot of where she's going to go. It's like there's, you can fill in the blanks of, this is, basically step one. Is she going to her first meeting and sharing? That's literally the cornerstone of how you recover. So
Yeah. And I know we are celebrating Jane, but aside from this project, are you already working something new? Anything that you can talk about?
Well, I'm developing the feature as a follow-up to Jane, so that's what I'm working on developing that and writing that. So that's what I'm focusing on. Hopefully, have a lot of momentum for this festival's run, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I hope so too. Kyle, yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to meet you, and I hope we can meet in person soon.
I look
And a
forward
lot
to
of
it.
success. And I'll be posting soon your interview so people can go and watch Jane at the
Okay.
festival.
Thank you so much, and pleasure meeting you. Appreciate it.
If you like this video, don't forget to comment, to like, and subscribe to our channel right here.